All right, let's dive into something pretty radical today. A management system that's built for this brand new world of teams made of both people and AI. It's called the Honey Badger Management Framework. And yeah, it promises to move incredibly fast, but it definitely comes with some very, very sharp teeth. So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get a big picture view of the framework itself. Then, we're going to look at its four main pillars: the need for speed, its, let's say, controversial use of competition, and then the support system of AI and safety nets. After that, we'll talk about the one role that makes it all work, the guru, before we give our final verdict. I mean, this is the big question right now, isn't it? As AI stops being just a tool and starts becoming a real teammate, the old ways we manage people just might not cut it anymore. Well, the Honey Badger Management Framework, or HBMF, says it has the answer, especially for those really chaotic, high-stakes projects. Okay, let's get right into the blueprint. What exactly is this Honey Badger Framework, and what makes it tick? When you boil it all down, HBMF is a complete operating model. You can think of it like a really detailed recipe for running teams that mix people and AI. The key ingredients? Speed, a dose of internal competition, deep AI integration, and, importantly, built-in backups. It's really designed for those situations where you have no idea what's around the next corner. No, you can't just drop this framework into any old company and expect it to work. Nope, it's built on a few non-negotiables. You need solid automation. The person in charge, the guru, has to have real authority. You have to obsessively protect psychological safety, and everyone needs to see clear, trusted metrics. You take one of those away, and the whole system is basically designed to fail. All right, let's dig into the first pillar. This is really the engine of the entire framework: rapid cycles. It's all about one thing: speed. The pace here is absolutely key. We're not talking about your typical month-long sprints. No, we're talking about really aggressive 7-day cycles. The entire goal is to test ideas out fast, and this is crucial to be able to pull the plug on a failing project after just 1 week. That way, you minimize wasted time and you can pivot almost instantly. And look, this idea isn't just something they pulled out of thin air. It's actually grounded in two really powerful economic theories. Real options theory basically says that having more chances to walk away from a bad investment is incredibly valuable. And batch size economics proves that working in smaller chunks cuts down on risk and delays. Both theories point to the exact same thing. In chaotic situations, faster and smaller is just better. So the report card on this pillar, it's on rock solid ground. We're giving it an A- evidence grade. The whole idea of rapid iteration is super well established. It's been proven time and time again. So yeah, this is probably the most stable part of the whole framework. Okay, now we get to the most controversial part of HBMF, Pillar 2. This is where the framework gets its aggressive reputation, and believe me, it is a true double-edged sword. So get this, you take a single team, you split it in two, and you have them both work on the exact same problem at the same time. It is a direct, head-to-head competition, often with a winner-take-all prize at the end. The whole idea is to use competition to squeeze out the absolute maximum effort. And this really gets to the core tension of the whole thing. On one hand, the promise is huge. Research shows these kinds of competitions can seriously boost performance. But on the other hand, the danger is just as big. This kind of setup can easily lead to sabotage, people refusing to help each other, and a total collapse of trust. It is absolutely a high-risk, high-reward play. And yeah, the evidence grade totally reflects that risk. We're talking a C+ to a B- at best. What that tells us is that while the upside is real, the outcome is just wildly unpredictable. It all depends on the situation and, as we're about to see, on having someone incredibly strong in charge to keep the whole thing from turning toxic. So if that intense competition is the risky engine, what keeps the whole thing from flying off the tracks? Well, that brings us to the next two pillars. You can think of them as the essential support structures for the whole system. Pillar 3 is all about making AI an official part of the team. It's not just a fancy calculator. It's an accountable member there to boost speed and quality. And Pillar 4 is all about redundancy. See, having two subteams isn't just for the competition. It's also a safety net. It gives you backup capacity, and it makes sure that you don't lose all your knowledge if one approach just doesn't work out. And the evidence for these? Pretty solid. AI teaming gets a B.
We can clearly see the productivity gains there. And redundancy gets a B+, which makes sense. It's a classic engineering principle. These two pillars bring some much-needed stability to what is otherwise a really volatile system.
So you've got speed, you've got risky competition, and you've got these stable supports. But how in the world do you get them all to work together without everything just blowing up? Well, that brings us to the single most important role in this entire system, the guru. You know, this quote just hits the nail on the head. You can't just snap these pieces together like Legos and expect it to work perfectly. The real danger here is that unchecked competition will just scare everyone into silence. People will stop speaking up, stop experimenting, and stop learning. So the guru is the active referee of this whole game. Their job is to enforce a strict no-sabotage rule, to be a fair judge when there are disputes, to actually help the competing teams share knowledge, and, this is the big one, to constantly measure the team's psychological safety. If that safety score drops, it can actually be a hard stop for the whole process. And let's be really clear about what psychological safety is. It's that feeling, that shared belief, that you won't get punished or humiliated for speaking up, for asking a question, or for making a mistake. In a system like this one that's built on speed and risk, protecting that feeling isn't a nice-to-have. It is the one thing that determines whether the team succeeds or fails, period. Okay, so let's put it all together. What is the final verdict on the honey badger management framework? When you look at the whole picture, you see that the framework is really a system of tensions. It's a constant balancing act. As you can see here, every single benefit, like getting faster feedback from AI, comes with a big risk, like massive coordination headaches. Every pro has a serious con you have to manage. All right, so if you're going to remember anything about HBMF, remember this. First, it's a complete, integrated system, not just a random collection of ideas. Second, while the evidence for each piece is okay, the whole system has never really been tested in the wild. Third, that super high-risk competition part absolutely requires the guru to keep it from going off the rails. And finally, psychological safety isn't just a fluffy concept. It's the non-negotiable foundation of the entire structure. Which leaves us with one final big question. On paper, the framework makes sense. It's a testable hypothesis. But in the real world, is this kind of high-pressure, high-stakes environment really the future of how we work? Or is it a system that, just like its namesake, is maybe just a little too ferocious for its own good?